Hello, I'm Robin Worley, welcome to Lenscraft. Today I want to revisit one of the topics I've covered recently, which is the new Range Mask feature in Lightroom. You may already have used this feature for making selections, and it's found within the brush tool, the gradient filter or the graduated filter, and also the radial filter. And what I'm going to do today is show you how you can use some of the features of the new tool in a way that I've not seen used in any of the other illustrations that are bouncing around the web at the moment. The first thing I'm going to do is, in this image you see here, is select the sky, because I want to darken the sky and make it more dramatic, but I don't want to select the rocks, and I'm going to use the range mask to help me avoid doing that. And I'll show you some of these new tips that you might be able to work into your own workflow. So the first thing I'm going to do is select the graduated filter, and I'm going to apply this over the sky here and just position it so that we've got the majority of the sky covered. Don't want to create too soft a gradient with this. That should be okay, and I'll just check it using the mask overlay. Now the mask overlay helps me see what I'm doing, but it also helps you see where the gradient filter or the graduated filter has been applied. And you can see the sky's covered, but the rocks are also covered, and we don't want that because it will make the rocks too dark when we darken the sky. So what I want to do is remove the selection from the rock, but leave it in place in the sky. One of the ways we can do this is with the range mask. I've got two choices here, colour or luminance, and in this case, because the luminance of the sky is going to be similar to the rock, it's probably not going to work. I'll just show you what I mean. So here I may want to select just the highlight areas or the lighter areas, and you can see that the sky is selected but also the rocks are still selected, and that's no good. So even if I reduce the smoothness here, you can see that areas of the sky here are being knocked out now of the selection. I don't want that, and also rock areas here are still being included in the selection, so the luminance masking is no good. Instead, we're going to go to the colour selection, and the way we're going to do this is by making a selection of the areas that we want to include, and we use this eyedropper tool. Now one of the things that you often see is people will click on an area like the sky, and they'll probably do a couple of samples maybe, and you can't actually make a good selection. Now if you hold down the shift key while you make the selections, you can actually create multiple selections, and that's quite good. It gives us a better result, but still not good enough. Now one of the things you can do with this selection is you can click and drag out a selection, and interestingly, if you hold down the shift key, you can actually create multiple sections that you drag out. Now at the moment that's made a good selection for the sky, but some areas of the rocks here are still selected, and we can reduce that using our range mask amount adjustment here. So by the time I reach about 20, I've actually created quite a good selection along the edges of the rocks here, and the sky's still selected but the rocks aren't. If I looked closely, I could actually see areas of the rock that are still being selected. So let's put down the selection tool for the moment, because we want to improve on the selection we made. Instead, what we can now do is use the brush tool. And I'm going to use the brush tool to erase the areas of the rocks that I don't actually want to be included. And I'm going to do that by using the auto mask option as well. And I'm going to set my flow to the maximum of 100, and that means everything that I go over with a single brush stroke will be removed. As I paint, you can see that the mask is starting to be cleaned up. And there we have it. We now have a very good selection of the sky, and the rocks themselves are all removed from that selection. Now the other thing that we might want to do is paint in a little bit more selection in this area here, and also this area here where the feathering hasn't quite selected the sky. If I switch now to the A brush, one of the things this will do is it will actually create a selection using the range mask that I've created. If, for example, I start to try to paint over the foreground, for example, you can't see anything happening. And that's because nothing is being selected because it doesn't match the range mask colour that I selected. But if I paint over here on the edge of the sky, it's actually painting in the details. So I've now cleaned up the edges of my mask using the range mask. So the range mask colour selector here is working in combination with my brush that I've used to paint in details. That's something that you can use all over your images. And if you want to remove areas that have been selected, you just go to the erase brush, and again you can use that in combination. So the brush together with the range mask is creating a really good selection tool that allows me to create an exact adjustment on the sky. So I can now turn off the red mask, and you can see that I can drop the exposure of the sky, maybe increase the contrast. I add in a little dehaze, I always like that adjustment, a little bit of clarity, maybe boost the whites a little bit in the sky. And there we have now quite a dramatic selection that's very accurate in terms of separating the sky from the edges of the scene. I hope you found that interesting. I'm Robin Worley, you've been watching Lenscraft.